The shuttle screamed as it cut through the upper atmosphere, its hull vibrating with a frequency that made Captain Jonas Hale's teeth ache. Outside the cockpit canopy, the sky of the unnamed planet burned in layers of amber and sickly green, clouds folding over one another like bruised muscle. Atmospheric shear increasing, Jonas muttered, hands steady on the controls. Whoever mapped this place did a terrible job. Behind him, Dr. Senna Virex braced herself against a console. The xenomechanist's segmented boots clicked softly against the deck as she leaned closer to the sensor display. Her species, Thal, were digitigrade and perpetually in motion. Even standing still made her uncomfortable. Energy readings are consistent, she said, voice calm but tight. Localized emissions. Rhythmic. Like a heartbeat, or footsteps. Jonas glanced back. Footsteps. Senna's neck frill twitched, an involuntary sign of unease. I don't like it either. The probe had gone silent 48 standard hours ago. It had been a simple mission: land, scan a tectonic rift visible from orbit, confirm whether the strange emissions were geological or artificial, then leave. Easy pay. Low risk. Until the silence. The shuttle touched down on a basalt shelf overlooking a colossal canyon. The fissure split the planet open like a scar, plunging so deep that even their instruments struggled to measure it. The air outside was thin and metallic, vibrating faintly beneath their boots. They didn't have to search long. The probe lay near the canyon's edge, its reinforced chassis peeled open as if by deliberate hands. Not torn. Not smashed. Disassembled. Jonas crouched beside it, fingers brushing a severed actuator. This wasn't erosion. No, Senna agreed softly. This was, careful. She paused, staring at the rock wall beyond the probe. At first glance, it was ordinary stone, layered, fractured, ancient. But the lines were too straight. Too intentional. She stepped closer and brushed dust away. A seam. A tall, narrow rectangle carved so precisely it might have been grown rather than cut. Jonas swallowed. That's a door. There is no interface, Senna said. No hinges. No visible power source. Still a door. Jonas pressed his palm against the stone. Nothing happened. He leaned in, applying more pressure. Still nothing. Then he stepped back, and felt something shift beneath his heel. A circular stone sank into the ground with a muted click. The canyon trembled. The rectangle slid sideways, vanishing into the rock with impossible smoothness. Cold air spilled out, heavy with dust and the sharp tang of ozone. Darkness waited inside. Senna recoiled instinctively, her legs shifting in rapid, nervous motions. Jonas. This violates first contact protocol. He activated his helmet light. The beam disappeared into the black. Then let's make it fast, he said. We look. We record. We leave. Neither of them said what both were thinking. Something here had been walking. And it had stopped. The passage sloped downward at a shallow angle, its surface unnervingly smooth beneath their boots. Jonas felt it immediately. The floor wasn't cold, not warm either, but active, vibrating with a faint, endless tremor, like muscles locked in perpetual tension. Senna's light traced the walls. Machined, she said. But not by tools we understand. For the first 100 meters, the tunnel was bare stone. Then the markings began. Lines etched into the walls, spirals intersecting grids, repeating motifs of paired vertical strokes. No symbols. No language. Just rhythm. Motion captured in geometry. It's restless, Senna whispered. This place never stopped moving. The tunnel opened abruptly into a vast chamber. Jonas stopped short. The floor stretched out farther than his helmet light could reach, filled with countless stone platforms arranged in perfect rows. And on each platform rested the same object. Legs. Thousands of them. They were tall, slender constructs of ceramic metal alloy, jointed with impossible precision. Each ended not in feet, but narrow tapered points, clearly designed for constant balance, constant motion. None were broken. None were damaged. They were placed. Senna's breathing quickened. These aren't spare parts. No, Jonas said slowly. They're offerings. At the center of the chamber rose a circular dais. Upon it stood a torso, humanoid in shape, smooth and featureless, fused seamlessly to a partial pelvic structure. Empty sockets stared back at them. From those sockets spilled filaments of crystallized circuitry, branching outward like frozen nerves, dormant but intact. Senna dropped to one knee without realizing it. Her species revered motion. To stop moving was to die. To remove one's legs. This is a mausoleum, she said hoarsely. Or a confession. Jonas stepped closer. On the torso's chest, a symbol had been etched, a complex knot of interwoven lines that seemed to shift when viewed directly. His light brushed across it. The symbol ignited. A glow rose from the dais, projecting a towering hologram. A being formed, complete, standing on two of the elegant legs from the chamber. Its body was flawless. Its posture eternal. But the feeling it projected was unmistakable. Exhaustion. A voice entered their minds, not sound, but meaning. We were built to move. To travel. To endure. Images flooded Jonas's thoughts, stars passing endlessly, planets rising and falling beneath tireless steps, centuries bleeding into millennia. We perfected the body. We forgot the mind. The being stood beneath alien suns, unmoving, not because it chose stillness, but because it could not choose otherwise. We could not kneel. We could not sit. We could not lie down. Motion was our prison. Jonas's chest tightened. You couldn't stop, he murmured. Not ever. The concept returned, heavy with despair. Rest became our forbidden dream. The hologram shifted. The being raised one of its legs, slowly, deliberately. With controlled force, it severed the limb at the socket. There was no blood. No scream. Only a wave of overwhelming relief that nearly drove Jonas to his knees. The leg was placed gently upon a stone platform. Then the second. The being collapsed, not in failure, but in surrender, settling onto the dais as the light within its chest dimmed. Only in breaking ourselves did we find peace. The chamber echoed with silence when the projection faded. Senna trembled violently, her legs folding and unfolding in rapid, panicked motions. They chose incapacity, she said. They mutilated themselves to survive existence. Jonas didn't answer. He felt something else, an aching human understanding. These beings hadn't chosen death. They had chosen rest. A sharp chirp from his wrist display broke the stillness. Senna, Jonas said slowly. Something just powered on. Deep beneath them, a massive energy signature surged awake, older than the chamber, stronger than anything the probe had recorded. A new presence pressed into their minds. You have trespassed upon stillness. The temperature in the chamber dropped. From a dark archway opposite the dais, it emerged. One of them. But wrong. Its legs were thick, reinforced, ending in brutal blunt pods that cracked the stone with every step. Its torso bore scars, patches, reinforcements, weapons grafted directly into its frame. I remained, the voice cut in, sharp and burning. While they surrendered. It raised a device humming with gray energy. I am the custodian. I enforced the rest they were too weak to protect. The weapon fired. The beam struck the floor beside Jonas. The stone didn't shatter. It stopped. A perfect circle of inert matter spread outward, no heat, no vibration, no energy. Absolute stillness. Run! Jonas shouted. They fled up the passage. The custodian did not chase. It walked. Each step deliberate. Unavoidable. Another blast froze the wall beside Senna. Cold surged through her suit. She screamed as her system struggled to compensate. They burst into daylight. The shuttle sat across the plateau. Between them and escape, the custodian fired again. The ground died. A 10-meter zone of dead stone, no power, no motion. Crossing it meant instant system failure. Death. You will join them, the custodian intoned. Still. Silent. Correct. Senna froze. Her legs betrayed her, trembling, useless, paralyzed by the very concept of stopping forever. Jonas stood alone. And then he did something the custodian did not expect. He reached down. Jonas dropped to one knee at the edge of the dead zone. Alarms screamed inside his helmet as his suit warned him of catastrophic failure if he advanced even a centimeter. The custodian loomed closer, its shadow stretching across the inert stone. You are walkers, it said. You cannot endure stillness. Jonas ignored it. He unlatched his suit's lower harness. Senna's eyes widened. Jonas, no. He reached down, not to the ground, but to his own legs. To flesh. To bone. To something the custodian had never possessed. Choice. Humans were fragile. Temporary. Their bodies broke whether they wanted them to or not. But that meant something else, too. They could stop. Jonas powered down the actuators in his suit's legs. The motors whined, then fell silent. He sat. The custodian halted mid-step. What are you doing? It demanded. Jonas exhaled shakily, heart pounding. I'm resting. The dead zone crept toward him, but stopped. The inert stone did not spread beneath his seated body. Because he was no longer walking. The custodian staggered back, confused. That is not permitted. You enforced their peace, Jonas said, meeting its glowing gaze. But you never understood it. He looked back at the chamber entrance, the legs, the dais, the still torsos. They didn't destroy themselves, he said. They reclaimed agency. The custodian screamed, a fractured, furious sound, and fired. The beam washed over Jonas. Nothing happened. His suit was off. His legs were still. There was no motion to stop. The sentinel, no, the custodian, reeled, systems failing as its weapon fed back upon itself, designed only to punish movement. Its reinforced legs locked. Cracked. And finally, stilled. Silence returned to the canyon. Senna crawled to Jonas's side, shaking, alive. You sat down, she whispered in awe. You survived because you could stop. Jonas looked out over the canyon, legs numb, heart racing. Sometimes, he said softly, the most powerful thing a species can do, is rest. Behind them, deep within the mountain, something ancient finally powered down. Forever.